In this video, you're going to see how to graph an ellipse as an example of a conic in Classpad.net in a couple different ways. You can use the graph sticky and you can also use the geometry sticky. So the three different ways that I'm going to be showing you are, first, if you go into the graphing sticky and turn on the conics menu, you can graph the equation as it is. If you don't turn that on, then you have to graph as separate equations. So I'm going to show you both. So let's go down and pull up a graphing sticky. And the first way is wanting to graph it exactly as it is. So that means I need to make sure the conics menu is on. So I'm going to go into my settings of my graph, which is the three dots, and you'll see down here there's a little button that says, oh, conics. So we're going to turn on conics. And now I can graph the equation as it is, and it's going to recognize that. So I'm going to copy and paste just to save us time. So I'm copying it and I'm entering that. And now because I have conics on, when I hit enter, I'm going to see my conics. And then if I click on the graph of that, I'm going to see the key points that I need. So I'm going to see E, I'm going to see my intercepts, I'm going to see my foci. So conics is probably the most efficient way to do this because it's showing you exactly all the key points that you need here, the foci, the center, the E, the intercepts, okay? So conics, turning conics on, probably the most efficient way to graph a conic. But let's say you don't remember that and you want to graph and you've solved your conic equation for the solutions, right? So I solved this conic ellipse equation for y, and I have the positive solution and the negative solution. So the other way to do this is to not turn on conics, which is basically graph these two separate solutions. But you do want to make sure that your complex numbers are on because you might get some errors for non-real solutions. So let's go into the settings of the paper, so math settings, and turn on our complex format just to make sure that non-real solutions are accepted. You don't need to do that if you use the conics setting specifically. But now we're going to open a separate graphing one. So this one is different because now it doesn't have the conics setting on, and I want to show you how you would graph it. But the paper itself has complex on. So now we're going to do the second one. So we're going to get the function button up again, and we're going to enter these two functions. So I'm going to do it twice. I'm going to have two different functions. So again, I'm just going to use copy paste as it saves me a little bit of time. So copy it in, and then let's do our second one. And so, oh, it's still giving me an error, which is interesting. It's not supposed to. So let's see if we have to turn complex mode on here as well. Maybe we need to put conics in just to... Nope, it doesn't like it. And this is because it has non-real solutions. Maybe we need to have these on. Let's see if that makes a difference. No. Oh, I know. I forgot the y. Ah, simple. So y equals. You didn't have to do any of the things that I just did. I needed to put in y equals. So notice that it's still the same ellipse, but it's made from the solution, the equations of the solutions versus the actual equation of the ellipse. So kind of an interesting way to explore this, and this is nice because it gives you the positive and negative solutions where they lie. But the difference here is when I click on my graphs, I'm only going to see the intersections. I'm not going to see, when we click on this one, because I did it with conics, I'm not going to see the foci in the center. So it depends. This one is, you know, if you don't have that conic thing, but this is a better option to graph. The third one is to use the geometry sticky. So let's go get a geometry sticky. And in the geometry sticky, this button right here, it has a drop down arrow, has a function. Now you can graph an ellipse here, but this is a dynamic ellipse, meaning it's not the specific one I've been given. I could make an ellipse and move it around, right? That's one option. But if I want to actually graph an equation I've been given, you would click this option here, a function. And now we're going to enter the function that we've been given. and we're going to see the ellipse here. Now, the geometry doesn't give you the same options because this is a geometry. It's a geometric object. But now you could go back into this ellipse and try to match things up, right? So let's make an ellipse and see if we can move it to match, and maybe we make it a different color. Because, oops. Let's make that dotted and make it orange. So now, can we find the key points of the graph of the one we did by moving this ellipse to it? So let's see if we can make this ellipse match our current one, right? Oh, I want to get this out. And so now when you do that, now you can find the key points that you do. Obviously, I'm doing a terrible job matching, but you could now move the dynamic one and try to find those key points. So the geometry one maybe is more of a discovery type of activity. Graphing the ellipse using the conic setting on the graphing is probably your most efficient if you're given a graph. So some options to work with.